This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and today we're going to look at the Acer Aspire P3. This is their latest Windows tablet, 11.6 inches. It looks almost identical to the Iconia W700 that we reviewed about 6 months ago, a little bit more. So we have this. It's like an iPad case. Pretty unusual thing to see with a Windows tablet, but why not? We're going to look at it now. So just to confuse the heck out of us, Acer is calling this the Acer Aspire P3 an Ultrabook. Does this look like an Ultrabook to you? Probably not so much. Does it look like a tablet with a keyboard case? Yeah, definitely. I would say that's really what it is. So don't be too confused. It is a tablet with an accessory Bluetooth keyboard that doubles as the case. It's actually a pretty nice looking case too. Acer has put out a couple of real tacky vinyl looking leisure suits, and this one now it has a nice kind of real leather look to it. I'm sure it's not leather, but a little ridge here because it folds. Classy looking, functional, protects the device, doesn't add very much to the thickness at all, as you can see right here, but there's actually a very usable keyboard. And also, the neat thing about this is it uses magnets, so it triggers on the device when you open it, just like Acer likes to set up their Ultrabooks to turn on when you open the lid, which is a power management setting. You can control that. But you see that just turned on all by itself? It's got a little magnet locator right there. So we're right here, off to work. Now let's talk about the keyboard a little bit first. As you can see, standard keyboard right there. This part here with the power and your charging status are hidden when you're actually using it, and this charges over micro USB. It is Bluetooth, so every once in a while you will have to charge it. Acer includes a USB to micro USB cable so you can charge it. But not bad keys, considering just how thin this whole thing is. It has good travel, it has good tactile feel, they click. I actually typed a review on this and I thought I was going to hate it, and I turned out to like it. It's not backlit, you don't get everything here, and I actually like this solution better than the keyboard, the discrete keyboard that used to come with the Acer Iconia W700, which we have right over here. You can see that came with the plastic dock, and it came with this accessory Bluetooth keyboard. Not that that isn't a good keyboard, but it's not nearly as portable a solution. By the way, the W700 now also ships with this keyboard case, and if you didn't get one because you were one of the folks who bought it back when it came with that separate keyboard, you can buy this keyboard case for $89 from Acer's website in the US. Now that we've talked a whole lot about the keyboard case, you don't have to use it in the keyboard case. There's little plastic clips right here. It's just like an iPad keyboard. Now they're pretty stiff to make sure that it holds the thing in place and it's not going to drop it by accident. So what you have to do is push the two clips back. They're at the top. And then you can pop it out. So here we finally wrestled the tablet out, and you can see what the case looks like otherwise. Pass-through holes for your speakers and your ventilation, all that kind of thing. But so here we have an 11.6-inch Intel Core i5 tablet. This is third generation Intel Core i5 Ivy Bridge. That's not the end of the world though, folks, so far. I have to say that Haswell has not really rocked my world all that much. That could change. But the interesting thing about this is a Core i5-3339Y. This is not the usual U for ULV CPU. This is an even lower powered CPU that I thought we were going to be seeing a lot of, particularly in tablets. That was Intel's idea. It was kind of bridging the gap until Haswell came out. And it runs at lower power. It runs at 13 watts instead of 17 watts maximum, which you would see on regular Ivy Bridge ULV CPUs, and it has a chugging along low power mode at 7 watts, so it's very power efficient. Does that mean this gets better battery life than the Iconia W700? Sadly not. This is lighter. This is 1.7 pounds versus our Iconia, which W700, which was 2.1 pounds, and there's less battery inside, I guess, because, well, the weight went somewhere. So, though this has a low-powered CPU, battery life so far has been about 4.5 hours. Also, what's the difference between this and the W700? The resolution is lower. You can't tell so much when you're in a live tile interface. You can tell a little bit more here because we haven't zoomed the desktop or anything that's 100% view. You can see everything pretty easily. That's because this is running at 1366 by 768 resolution. I'm not going to say that's a bad thing, because honestly, 11.6 inches and sometimes smaller, like with Microsoft Surface, it's impossible to see on the desktop here unless you enable desktop scaling, which can just about defeat the whole purpose of having a higher resolution display. Yes, if you're looking at graphics or you're watching HD video, it's going to look a little bit sharper on a full HD screen, but I think in terms of usability, this is fine. And that's why Acer can make this a little bit less expensive than the W700. Speaking of pricing, the list price is $799 for the version that we have here with the Core i5 1.5 gigahertz dual core Intel Core i5-Y3339Y. Once again, 120 gig SSD, 4 gigs of RAM, you're looking at $899 list price. Now, Acer products often sell for a bit under list price at retailers, so it may drop down. But the price is uncomfortably close to the W700, which actually offers longer battery life and a faster CPU inside. And here again, we have it in front of the W700, and you know, separated at birth, right? You couldn't tell these guys apart at first. A couple of the controls have moved around just a little bit, but otherwise, they're using the same casing and the same industrial design, the same footprint, the same size, the same thickness. Back is only minorly different. That's what the back looks like on our P3. And the back on our W700. Just about identical, right? So in terms of looks, in terms of casing, you're looking at the same thing with these guys. In terms of display quality, this is an IPS panel. It has wide viewing angles, really nice color saturation. You can see that, really good colors. Certainly a pleasure to watch movies on this, to do almost anything, honestly. And it's sharp enough for my eyes. I can stand reading text on it, that kind of thing. It is a pretty glary glass display, but it does combat that well. It's almost 400 nits of brightness. Again, disable Windows Auto Brightness if you want it to really shine through by going into your charm settings over here. Change PC settings, go to General, and you can disable the ambient light sensor down here, and you can get more brightness if you need to for indoor use. Anyway, nice enough screen right here. 4 gigs of RAM, again, 120 gig SSD. You can see our speeds on our SSD right here. I've captured a screenshot from Crystal Disk Mark, and pretty good read speeds here. The write speeds are okay. This is about the same as we saw on our Samsung Series 7 Ultrabook, so that's not a terrible speed at all. It's pretty decent for an SSD drive. Of that 120 gigs, about 77 gigs were free out of the box. That's recovery partition, Windows, and associated apps do take up some space there. If you need to expand storage with this, you're going to have to use a USB flash drive or an external hard drive. There is no SD or micro SD card slot on this. The same is true of the W700, by the way. Let's take a look around this device. First off, capacitive button here. No, this is a hardware clicky button. That's good because it's pretty easy to accidentally press capacitive buttons right there. So if you want to get back to the last thing you were doing or back to the Windows Metro screen, you press that clicky button right there. On the side, we have our charging port right here. This uses the same charger as the Acer Aspire Ultrabooks and as the W700. One USB 3.0 port right here, our micro HDMI. Up top, we have ventilation holes. Core i5 does have to breathe. Speaking of ventilation holes, boy, pretty quiet operation here. It's not an Intel Atom, it's not a fanless design, but it's not a loud computer, even when it's doing something like playing HD video. On this side, we have our hardware volume controls. This is our power button. Here's your 3.5mm combo headphone jack. And over here, we have our speakers, which, as you can see from this labeling right here, Dolby Home Theater Audio. It's actually pretty loud for an 11.6-inch tablet. Sounds pretty good. And we'll listen to that in a minute. On the front, we have a 1 megapixel webcam. There's an ambient light sensor as well. Pretty decent webcam, certainly good enough for Skype. And on the back, 5 megapixel camera. Same as with the W700 right up there. No flash of any kind. And as you might guess, it's pretty good in very good lighting. Bright offices, outdoor lighting. You can take some pretty colorful shots. But if you're indoors in dim lighting, you're going to get noisy shots. And Acer does include their own camera application with this, which we're happy about because the basic Windows application is not really optimized for any particular hardware very well. Now, those of you who are observant might have noticed there's a little pen holder over here, isn't there? That's because there's an optional pen. Sadly, it's not an active digitizer. I'll prove it to you. Here's a Wacom pen. This is from my Samsung Series 7 Slate, standard Wacom tablet PC pen. Nope, don't see it. Here's an N-Trig pen that's used on stuff like the Sony Vaio Duo. Nope. Here's a capacitive stylus like you can use with an iPad or an Android tablet. Yep, that works. So, capacitive only if you want to use a stylus with this guy. Not as precise, not as pressure sensitive, but better than nothing for those of you who want to take notes or doodle. As you might guess, since this has a 1.5 gigahertz Core i5 dual core that's meant to run at lower powers, this guy isn't quite as fast as Microsoft Surface, the Acer Iconia W700, the Samsung Ativ 700T PC Pro, all the others that are running on ULV Core i5s. That is a processor that ends with the U and has a slightly higher clock speed. You can See our Windows Experience Index right here, 6.3 for processor. That's a couple of points lower. Usually we see 6.9 to 7.1, depending on whether it's a Core i5 or i7 ULV. 5.9 for memory, pretty much standard. That must be single channel memory that tells us for that score. 4.7 for desktop graphics, 6.1 for 3D graphics, 8.1 for the SSD, pretty decent score there. Will you feel the difference compared to those machines? Well, it really depends on what you're doing. If you're doing MS Office work, web, email, that kind of thing, probably not so much. But for those of you who want to edit some HD video or high-resolution photos, try to play games on this. You know, it's marginally, you could get away with Skyrim at low settings on a Core i5 ULV like using Surface Pro. Here, you're really going to be pushing it too hard. The frames per second are just going to really be too low. We're talking like 20 frames per second, even at low resolution and low settings. So there it will make a difference, so it depends on what you want to do. On PC Mark 7, it scored a 3954. Usually we see around 4400 to 4900 with Core i5 ULVs and Ultrabooks and tablets, so a little bit lower there, but still a very respectable score, and it's helped out definitely by that SSD drive that's pretty quick in there. On 3D Mark 11, it scored a 544. Par for the course for Ultrabooks and tablets with Intel Core CPUs. Not super duper stunning there, but not bad. It can, however, handle HD video playback. Obviously, the screen resolution is not full HD, so you're not going to be watching full HD video on the screen and really getting the glorious effect of it, but you could use HDMI out. This has dual-band Atheros, Qualcomm Atheros Wi-Fi on it. Reception has been fine for us, but that means you don't get Intel WiDi wireless displays, so that one's out for streaming stuff to your TV. Let's check out a video and see how it does. Now we could also use regular Windows Media Player to play this because this is a full Windows 8 PC that we've got running right here. And that's 64-bit Windows. So yes, you can install Photoshop, Chrome web browser, all that kind of stuff on this guy.
My dear Frodo, you asked me once if I had told you everything there was to know.
And now bring the volume up to 60%.
Well, I can honestly say I have told you the truth.
And the speakers are on the bottom here, but the stand keeps them up just a little bit so they're not completely blocked.
I can't just go running off into the blue. I am a Baggins. Wait!
So that's a full HD video playing nicely, playing smoothly, and the speakers really do sound pretty nice. They sound fairly natural, not tinny, not harsh, and the volume is pretty good for a tablet of this size. And for music, likewise, you could use Windows Media Player, or you could use the built-in Metro Player, which we'll check out over here. And again, we get the Xbox Music Experience. Let's see if we can find our music. It might take it a minute. Aha, there we go. Little hypnotic drumming there. Sounds pretty good. And of course there's a headphone jack, so you can get some good audio out that way. Sounds very nice with wired headphones, and you could use Bluetooth as well, stereo headphones or stereo speakers with this guy. And now we're in Shark Dash, which was preloaded on this, and you know, it's not the right device for Skyrim, but you can certainly play the games that are in the Windows App Store just fine. Entertain yourself, entertain your kids. And there we have it. Sort of like Angry Sharks, isn't it? And for more practical and productive things, right now we have Windows Journal running, which is included for free. You can put Office on here if you want. You can put Open Office on here, a lot of choices. Typing at a little bit of an angle, but so there you go. I was typing along pretty quickly. I'm at a slight angle, and that's pretty darn good. That's actually correct. So yes, the keyboard does work. I have not really had a lot of practice with this. It's just fine for doing emails, even for writing longer documents too. Clearly, this guy has some strong selling points compared to Atom tablets that are on the market, including the HP NVX2. That's an Atom tablet we liked an awful lot. Had a clamshell design with a separable keyboard, because this guy has the full Intel Core i5 CPU. Even if it is the Y series version, this is about 5 times faster than the current Intel Atom that's being used on Windows 8 tablets. So for those of you who just need a little more oomph, but you don't want to go over $1,000, that's what the Acer Aspire P3 is for. Again, you know, the thing that's going to hurt it the most is Acer's own W700, though, because you can find those for around $899 as well, and you get more horsepower and a little bit longer battery life. So that's the Acer Aspire P3. It should be available any day now. Mid-June says Acer for release. So if you're looking for something a little bit more affordable than Acer's own W700, well, that would be the P3, and we'll have to see what actual retail prices are like now that we know the suggested retail. But I think the W700 is the P3's own worst enemy. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Be sure to visit our website for the full review, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel.